Okay, today we are talking about industrial music, or any music for that matter, and inspiration. So if you're having troubles finding some kind of inspiration, or just trying to figure out ideas for your next song or your first song or whatever it is, these are just general tips to kind of help you get into the headspace and to feel inspired. So, the first tip I have is sample something or use a sample from somewhere. So, sample a TV show, sample a news broadcast, or even find samples on sample sites. You can also sample things like water or glass or the toilet flushing or whatever you want. A movie, a beat, maybe. Now this I would caution to be very, very fucking careful with, because you don't know if you're gonna get sued with this or not, but you could sample somebody else's song. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you do that, I would either ask if it is possible for you to ask for permission to use that sample, or you go about it in a legal way, or you sample somebody else's song and you fuck with it so much that it is completely unrecognizable from the original song. That's a way of doing it, so that it wouldn't be very likely that you would get into trouble uh, sampling someone else's song. So another tip is fucking around with synthesizers, whether it's a hardware synthesizer or a software synthesizer. Just sometimes, making sounds and creating custom sounds with your synthesizers, whether it's software or hardware. Sometimes that can get the creative juices flowing and can inspire you and stuff like that. So that's another tip. Here's something for you. Sometimes listening to music that's not your own, sometimes even turning on the radio to a radio program that you may like, or even something that you fucking hate, because sometimes you'll be listening to, like, well, I'll give an example. I know this is kind of I'll give you an example. Christian pop music or Christian rock music, that stuff, oh my god, it makes me so fucking angry. But that's the thing. Like, maybe you have it on in the background while you're writing music and you use it as inspiration to create a song or whatever, right? So turning on the radio is one. Here's another one. Sometimes changing your environment can be inspirational too. Like, getting out of your studio or wherever you're writing music, going for a walk, maybe even going to a coffee shop, or a pub or something. You don't even have to go there with anyone. You can just sit down, have a cup of coffee or a drink or something, bring your notebook or even your laptop, if you have one, and just kind of write out ideas and just put yourself in a different environment. I know that's worked for me. Many times. Typically when I travel, I write, and I obviously it's not going to work all the time, but sometimes when you're out and about or when you're traveling or whatever, sometimes that can help get the creative juices flowing, because that is key. Get the creative juices flowing. I will give you a pro tip. Always bring a notebook with you wherever you go, whether it's work, whatever it is. You never know when inspiration is going to strike. Sometimes it can be just simple things, and all of a sudden you have this, like, fucking musical vision in your head, and you got to get it out, or lyrics or whatever the fuck it is, and you just got to write it down. So make sure you're prepared and have something you can write in and jot notes and thoughts and feelings and all that kind of stuff. For this last EP that we did, plus the singles that we've just released and the one that we're releasing in the future, as well as our coming album, I think that the EP is related to this album. It's got a song that's on it that's also on the new album that's coming out. For me, you know, just being in different urban environments was inspirational, you know, like wandering through alleys and, you know, being in concrete jungle type stuff, and just wandering around downtown trying to find just concrete and, like, you know, in urban street environments and stuff like that. These singles and albums were also inspired by, you know, political goings on that are going on right now that a lot of us can't seem to fucking ignore, and probably for a good thing that we can't ignore it. And, you know, even topics like politics can be a source of inspiration. And I mean, fuck, look at Rage Against the Machine, perfect band as an example for politics being the inspiration for music and stuff. Also, technology can be inspiration. This coming album is also highly inspired by some coming technology and some stuff that's in development and that is being debated over by scientists and the military and such like that. So I'm not going to get into actually I can kind of get into specifics. Actually, our song The End Game, you would know this if you had watched the Meaning of the End Game video that we did, but The End Game, that song is about automated weapons, which is basically weapons with artificial intelligence. And I'm not going to get into it in this video. You can, if you're curious what that song is about, you can go watch the Meaning of the End Game. And but that song was heavily inspired by technology that is being debated over, and I think it might actually already be being developed now for military applications, which personally I think is unfortunate because that changes the whole playing field when it comes to combat. So, and it's not a good thing either. So, you know, there's so much inspiration out there. There's so many things that can inspire us, and the topic is such a broad and huge topic that I wouldn't be able to get into every single facet of what can inspire you to create. Sometimes you know, sometimes it's just like knowing yourself, or even not even knowing yourself, but figuring out who the fuck you are and just kind of like, you know, writing about the process of finding who you are and, you know, trying to figure out who the fuck you are. And yeah, so I've got a couple other tips that I think might be useful. Another thing you can do, something that I find inspiring, or a couple of these things that I find inspiring, one of them is sometimes just going out to support other bands' shows and just being at the show and, you know, just taking in music. And it may not even be local band shows, it could be bands that are rolling through on tours or whatever, and, you know, just taking in the music and just really enjoying it. And you know, sometimes that can put you in a headspace where you feel creative, and not only are you doing something good by supporting the scene, you're getting creative ideas from other bands and such. So another thing that is, I think, that is inspiring is sometimes for me, like when I'm writing actually all the time when I'm writing music, I'm always thinking about how it's going to be performed in the live show. So like for me, it's always been about the live show and just like, you know, creating music that I think would perform well in a live situation, and just figuring out like, okay, if I write this part, how am I going to perform that live, and kind of structuring my song around performances and such like that. And that's, I mean, you know, thinking about your music in that way might actually inspire you to come up with a new song or your first song or whatever the fuck it is. So And that leads me to the next inspirational thing, actually playing live shows. I know after I played my very first live show way back in 2004 or whatever it was, I was so fucking inspired. I was highly inspired, and I had all these ideas, and I was like, okay, now I know where I want to go musically, and I know how I want to present this live, and I'm just like, that, you know, it just motivates you, and or at least it did for me. It highly motivated me and highly inspired me to, you know, do different things with my music and really get out what I'm trying to express to people through the music and stuff, and hopefully in the live show as well. So even playing live shows can be inspirational to writing music. So sometimes working on other creative endeavors can be inspiring too, like painting or drawing or crafting of some kind, or some kind of creative endeavor that's not music. Sometimes taking a step away from your music and working on other creative things, like maybe it's photographs, maybe it's maybe I already mentioned this, but painting or making jewelry or something, you know. I don't know, like it sometimes just making other stuff can actually inspire you to write music in a certain way. Like maybe it's a drawing or something, or maybe it's a painting and you express yourself in the painting and you have a theme with your painting, and then that theme is actually what triggers something in your mind and goes, oh, and you go, holy fuck, I just thought of a fucking song here, and then, or an idea to start off a song, and it's based on this painting or drawing or whatever it is. And you know, that can lead to inspiration as well. I mean, sometimes even stepping away. I don't do this, but I know some people do. You know, I'm not one of those people that like taking breaks. So for me, music is really, you know, what I want to do, and I believe if you truly want to do something, you don't need a break from it. So of course within reason. I mean, if you're having, like, if you're going through a stressful time in your life and you need just to step away from other stuff so you can get other stuff done, I mean, that makes sense, right? But I think this might be the last tip for you guys. You know, I might upload more videos of inspiration tips and stuff like that. This one is a little different because not everyone thinks of it, but it is a tip that I think is highly useful, and this one is dreams. So when you go to bed, take a notebook with you, and like if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have some dream, and it's like very vivid, or maybe it's not as vivid, but you know, it's vivid enough that you remember it, and you know, write down your dreams, because that could be inspiration. Another thing is, sometimes, like, I know for myself, I've woken up and I've had lyrics in my head that I've never heard them. They're just lyrics that popped in my head that I was dreaming about, and I woke up and I wrote them down. Of course, I haven't used them yet, but I have done that. And you know, it's the funny thing too, is that they actually made sense. It wasn't just like stream of thought shit that was happening while I was dreaming. It was like, oh, this actually makes sense. You know what? I'm gonna finish that song because you guys should hear that and see what that's about. But that'll be another time. Take a notebook with you, bring it to your bedside with a pen, leave it there. If you wake up and you had some kind of vivid dream that you remember, write it down, and you know, maybe that'll turn into lyrics too. Maybe you wake up with music in your head. I may have done that once. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times, although I would say to articulate it the same way, it was a little difficult, but you know, you never know, right? So what else here? Like I said earlier, these ideas are just a fraction of some of the things that you can use as inspiration for your own creative endeavors. There are so many other things out there. Like, there's so many other things that you can be inspired by. Maybe you pick a theme. Like, maybe it's a cyberpunk theme, or like a historical theme like World War II or something, or something like that, and you're inspired by history of some sort. You're inspired by science fiction or whatever it is. It could even be fantasy, like dragons and swords and shit, like although I wouldn't do that, but maybe you do, I don't know. Like, that's you do you, right? So there's so many things that we can do to feel inspired, and just it is actually impossible to list every single source of inspiration, because I don't know what all the sources are, and there's probably as many sources as there's many beings in the universe, because each being has their own fucking thoughts and their own lives and their own each of us is inspired by different things. All I'm doing here is just trying to help you get your creative juices flowing, and to help you get inspired or find inspiration, or like maybe that's something else. Maybe you just pick something, like maybe it's about winter or something, like it could be anything. You could pick a theme, anything. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you haven't checked out our latest single, The End Game, it is on all major or most major streaming and pay-for platforms like iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, Spotify, and it is also on our Bandcamp, which you can find at twitch-official.bandcamp.com. It's called The End Game, and you'll probably hear the remix or the end game itself in this video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. If you feel it has value, please share it with your friends, your family, maybe not your family, your friends and your friends. Share it, please share it. And if you have ideas list them in the comments. Like, maybe there's things like, what are you guys inspired by? Maybe you have ideas of how people can get inspired. Maybe we can make a big list. I don't know. Maybe we don't. I don't know. If you have questions or comments, obviously leave them in the comment section. And finally, hit that bell button to be notified when our videos go live, and please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Fuck.